nice to you up in Minnesota. We giving it to you.
Hubs a Raiders fan. Eat it, Hubs.
I feel like the audience should know that. Back here with Coach Mangini. So after over 15 seasons, the Eli Manning era is over for the Giants. The team announced that rookie Daniel Jones will be their starter on Sunday against the Bucs. 38-year-old Eli Manning reportedly has no immediate plans to waive his no-trade clause, essentially accepting his role on the bench. Coach Mangini, should Eli attempt to play elsewhere?
No, not this year. I mean, he'll probably be playing for the Giants again in 4 or 5 weeks anyway. So he'll be back. It's just a matter of time, and he's in the last year of his contract. He's established. He's got his family here. He's got so much goodwill. He's handled everything as well as you could possibly handle it, considering, you know, what he's achieved versus where things went. Two games in the season, which is obviously a big enough sample size to say it's Eli's fault, so they have to move forward. I think next year he can take a step back, sit with his family, figure out what the opportunities are, and we see it all across the league. There's a bunch of quarterbacks that nobody has any idea who they are, who are now starters and are going to be starters for a significant amount of time. When you're looking for a quarterback next year, and there's going to be a bunch of teams that are, Eli could be a fantastic opportunity for an organization.
Well, if I'm a fan of an organization and next year a team brings in Eli Manning, I'm devastated. Eli Manning can be a Hall of Famer. Eli Manning can be one of only 5 people in football history that's won 2 Super Bowl MVPs. He beat the greatest team that I've ever seen, the '07 Patriots. No one can take any of those things away from him. But Eli Manning, through his first 8 years as a full-time starter after he took over midseason his rookie year, 8 years in a row, the Giants had 0 losing seasons. They went to 2 Super Bowls. They won 2 Super Bowls against the Patriots. They were in it every year. That 2008, they had what I thought was a great team that was 11-1. Then Plexico shot himself, and the whole thing went awry. But since 2012, after 8 years with no losing seasons, he's had nothing but losing seasons except for the 11-5 year. He's 38-59 as a starting quarterback the last 7 years. Now, I'm not a big quarterback wins guy. I'm not a big, the way you measure a quarterback is purely are you winning. But when we talk quarterbacks on this show, you talk about Big Ben, we talk about guys that are consistent winners. We can't then change the math and say the quarterback wins count when it helps a guy, but they don't count when a guy for 7 years has been bad. Eli Manning's led the league in interceptions multiple times. Eli Manning has very clearly been done for a few years. Now, I don't think the timing of this was right. I think they should have either done it 6 months ago or 6 games from now. I think once again, the Giants are trying to ride on the median and have it in both ways. So I agree with you in that regard. But the idea that Eli Manning has more football left in him, I've seen no evidence of that over the last, not 2 games, over the last 2+ seasons. And the Giants are making a move now they probably should have made a while ago.
Can Eli still throw the ball? Yes. If he had a good offensive line, if he had quality receivers, could he still be effective? I still believe so. I don't believe Eli's going to want to play. Eli's got 4 kids under the age of 8. He's made more money than anyone in the history of football. And I believe after 16 years and what he's been through the last several years, to me, he's going to call it quits. We need a support system. 99% of the players, we need to be in a system that's going to enhance our talent. And we need other people around us that are warts people cannot see. And the Giants have not been able to provide that. Lack of consistency, no offensive line. Eli has not helped his own situation. So for me, I look to Eli. He's going to back up Daniel Jones. I believe Daniel Jones is going to get nicked up. They're still going to need Eli this season in these 14 games. And then Eli rides off into the sunset next year, this being his last year with the New York Football Giants.
What we see every year is there's quarterbacks that flash, and the next year they get paid big money contracts, whether it's Brock Osweiler or, I mean, there's
Case Keenum was a guy that did it. Nick Foles.
Scott Mitchell back in the day.
Scott Mitchell back in the day. Who's the guy that went to Seattle from Green Bay?
Matt Flynn.
Matt Russell Wilson took his job.
Yeah, so it happens every year. And the other thing that happens every year is that a really good team has their starting quarterback get hurt late in the season. So there's different opportunities that if he is sitting at home and he does feel like he has some football left, he may take a step back and say, this is a team that's built in a way that I feel comfortable.
Chicago.
a great situation. You got the defense. If you can establish a running game, if you have things in place where he takes a step back and says, "Yeah, I feel I can be very successful in this environment," I could see him continuing to play. And there's a lot of guys obviously playing into their 40s and beyond. Why wouldn't he take a step back and say, "Yeah, I want to let the Giants know that maybe they shouldn't have made that decision as quickly as they did"?
And when you look at Eli's career from 20,000 feet, Chris, I thought you put it in a way I'd never quite heard put it earlier, and it's really interesting, which is there's two paths to the Hall of Fame. One is sustained regular season excellence, and the other is, and this is the much more rare path, where you have one or two just postseason moments of such utter brilliance that is what you're remembered for. And that's going to be the path Eli rides in. His regular season compiling his availability is one of the greatest ever. He's never missed a game due to injury, and because of that, he's going to finish top 10 all-time in touchdowns and yards. But the reason he will, I agree with you, one day be a Hall of Famer is because of those two postseason runs. Both years having to play in the wild card round. Both years, first year 3 road games, second year 2 road games in the playoffs, and then beating the 2 best Patriot offenses statistically that Brady and Belichick have ever had in the 20 years. The 2007 and 2011 Pats. Those runs and the legacy, I think the name doesn't hurt him. I think the family legacy doesn't hurt him. I think playing in New York doesn't hurt him. All those things are why Eli, despite finishing his career now with a 500 record, despite never being an All-Pro, never leading the NFL in anything but interceptions, is going to be a Hall of Famer and maybe a first ballot Hall of Famer.
I might be one of the few people, and I know the Mannings, and they are great people. They might be the first family of football, but I believe Eli being a Manning has hurt him more than it's helped him. All right? He doesn't have the personality, all right, that the other brothers have. And Eli has been soft-spoken. He's carried himself as a professional. Because if there was anyone playing in the league, and remove the names and just say those stats, he won 2 Super Bowls, went on those runs, and had a 500 record, they would be in the Hall of Fame no matter what they were. No matter what they were. You give me one of the quarterbacks, let's just say Kurt Warner. All right, Kurt Warner went through some ups and downs. He's a Hall of Famer, but it had nothing to do with his name. So you give me Eli's stats, you put them on someone else, and you tell me that the Manning got him over the hump compared to those 2 because the 2 Super Bowls wasn't won because of his name.
No, clearly, but I think some would argue that you can juxtapose Eli Manning to Jim Plunkett. Both won 2 Super Bowls. Eli won 2 MVPs. He won 1.
Plunkett was on a legendary coach, all right? The coach got the credit for that. And because they had more great players on those teams that the credit went around. So if you look at that roster that he was on, they were like Jim Plunkett was driving the car. Eli Manning made significant plays, game-changing, NFL history-changing plays inside those games. Pull up the video. You show me Jim Plunkett, Pearson, you show me Jim Plunkett throwing one pass to Mario Manningham, tight roping down the sideline. All right, we know we don't have another Tyree play, but Eli, inside those games, he was a difference maker.
We'll do that in the break because we got to take one. Coach, thanks so much for hanging out today. Coming up, do the Chiefs need Jalen Ramsey to overthrow the Patriots? Next on First Things First.